The last hope. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Luna Base, her reflection ghosting against the reinforced plasteel as Earth hung like a jewel in the void. Behind her, holographic displays showed the approaching swarm, millions of biomechanical vessels stretching across parsecs of space, consuming everything in their path. "How long?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Dr. Marcus Webb, his dark skin ashen under the harsh lighting, consulted his tablet. 8 days until they reached the outer colonies. 2 weeks to Earth. Maybe less. The swarm had appeared 6 months ago, emerging from the darkness between the Orion and Sagittarius arms. They weren't the first hostile aliens humanity had encountered, but they were by far the most terrifying. Not because of their superior technology or overwhelming numbers, though both were true, but because of their absolute silence. No demands. No negotiations. Just endless, methodical consumption of every world they encountered. "Show me Project Prometheus again," Chen commanded, turning from the window. The holographic display shifted, showing schematics for what appeared to be a single ship. But appearances, as humanity had learned, could be deceiving. "The quantum entanglement drive is stable," Webb reported, enlarging the engine section. "We've solved the coherence problems that plagued the early tests. One ship can now maintain multiple quantum states simultaneously across parallel probability lines." In English, Dr. Webb smiled tightly. "One ship that exists in many realities at once. To the swarm, it will appear as though they're facing an entire fleet. Each version equally real, equally capable of causing damage." Chen nodded slowly. "And the crew? That's the catch. We can only maintain quantum coherence for a single vessel. Trying to extend it to multiple ships causes the whole system to collapse. And the neural load on the crew." Webb trailed off. "How many?" "A crew of 12. We've selected the candidates based on both physical resilience and psychological stability. They'll need both." Webb hesitated. "There's something else. The quantum effect, it changes people. The crew will experience multiple timelines simultaneously. They'll live and die countless deaths while remaining alive. The psychological impact is difficult to predict." Chen turned back to the window, to the beautiful blue marble that held everything humanity had ever known. "Do they understand what we're asking of them?" "They do. Every one of them volunteered anyway." "Of course they did. Humanity's finest, willing to sacrifice everything, including their own sanity, for a chance to save Earth." The next few days passed in a blur of final preparations. The ship, officially designated QES-1, but already nicknamed Schrödinger's Promise, by the crew, underwent its final systems checks. The 12 chosen crew members said their goodbyes, knowing they might return as heroes or not at all. Or perhaps both, existing in a quantum superposition of triumph and tragedy. Commander Maya Patel stood on the bridge of the Promise for the first time, running her hands over the neural interface controls. At 34, she was the youngest person ever to command a capital ship, chosen not just for her tactical brilliance but for her ability to think in quantum possibilities. "All systems online," reported Lieutenant James O'Connor from the engineering station. "Quantum core is stable and responding to inputs. Medical monitoring active," added Dr. Sarah Liu. "Neural patterns normal across all crew members." Maya took a deep breath, feeling the ship's systems integrating with her consciousness through the neural link. It was like having extra limbs, extra senses, and somewhere at the edges of her awareness, the quantum possibilities waited to be unleashed. "Launch control, this is QES-1, she said clearly. "We are ready for departure." Admiral Chen's voice came through, strong and clear, "You carry humanity's hopes with you, Commander. Make it count." "Understood, Admiral." Maya's fingers tightened on the controls. Quantum drive engaging in 3, 2, 1. Reality fractured. The promise lifted from its cradle, one ship becoming many, each version equally real, equally present, separated only by the quantum walls between possibilities. Through the neural link, Maya felt her consciousness expand, experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously. She saw the ship launch successfully. She saw it explode on the pad. She saw everything in between, and her mind somehow held it all together. As they cleared Earth's atmosphere, Maya addressed her crew, every version of them across every quantum timeline. We're about to attempt something that's never been done before. One ship against an alien armada. But we're not really one ship, are we? We're humanity's every possibility, every chance, every hope, compressed into a single point in space and time. Let's show the swarm what humanity can do when we put our minds to it. The promise accelerated toward the outer system, toward the approaching swarm. Behind them, Earth waited, unaware that its fate now rested with 12 souls spread across infinite possibilities. And somewhere ahead, the swarm continued their implacable advance, unaware that humanity had changed the rules of reality itself to stop them. In the quantum spaces between moments, the promise flew on, one ship and many, a desperate gamble and humanity's last, best hope for survival. The Quantum Gambit. The first sign of the swarm appeared as a distortion in the light of distant stars. Through the promise's quantum-enhanced sensors, Commander Patel watched reality ripple as millions of biomechanical ships tore through space, their very presence warping the fabric of spacetime. Multiple contacts, Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez reported from Tactical, her voice steady despite the terror-inducing sight. Their numbers, the computers can't even generate a reliable count. Maya felt the quantum possibilities shifting through her neural link. In some timelines, the swarm had already detected them. In others, they remained hidden. She held these contradictory realities in her mind, letting them guide her decisions. Begin quantum divergence, she ordered. Let's show them what one ship can do. The promise's quantum drive hummed to life. Reality split, fractured, multiplied. Through the neural link, Maya felt her consciousness expand across probability space. She was no longer just Commander Patel of a single vessel, she was Commander Patel of dozens, hundreds, each version equally real, equally present. The effect on the crew was immediate. Dr. Liu's medical monitors lit up like a Christmas tree as 12 minds struggled to process multiple simultaneous existences. Neural strain within acceptable parameters, Liu reported, though her voice echoed strangely across quantum states. But we should be conservative with the number of splits until the crew adapts. In the engineering section, Lieutenant O'Connor worked frantically to maintain quantum coherence across the proliferating timelines. Quantum core stable at 70% capacity. We can maintain current configuration for approximately 6 hours before requiring reconvergence. The swarm noticed them, noticed all of them. Their vast fleet began to shift, billions of tons of biomechanical matter changing course to intercept what appeared to be a sudden appearance of a human battle group. Maya watched through multiple sets of eyes as the swarm approached. In one timeline, she ordered evasive maneuvers. In another, she commanded a bold advance. In a third, she maintained position, analyzing the enemy's response. Each decision created new branches, new possibilities, new opportunities. They're scanning us, Rodriguez reported across all timelines. Their sensor patterns are strange. It's like they're trying to taste us. Through the quantum link, Maya felt the swarm's attention like a physical pressure. Their hive-mind consciousness pressed against the edges of reality, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. How could a human fleet appear from nowhere? How could it move with such impossible coordination? They're launching their first wave, Rodriguez announced. Biological missiles, carrying some kind of corrosive payload. Maya made her decision, or rather, made several decisions simultaneously. In one timeline, the Promise dove beneath the missile salvo. In another, it stood its ground, weapons blazing. In a third, it performed an impossible maneuver that took advantage of its quantum state, existing in multiple positions simultaneously. The swarm's missiles found themselves targeting ships that both were and weren't there. Their biological guidance systems, evolved over millions of years to track and destroy conventional vessels, couldn't cope with targets that existed in quantum superposition. Direct hits in timelines 3 and 7, Rodriguez reported. But we're still operational in 12 others. The quantum drive is actually learning from the destroyed iterations, adapting our defensive patterns in real time. Maya felt it through the neural link, the knowledge of death and survival flowing together, teaching them, making them stronger. But she also felt the strain on her crew. Managing multiple timelines was taking its toll. In some versions of reality, crew members were already showing signs of psychological stress, their minds struggling to process multiple simultaneous experiences. "Dr. Liu," she called out. "Status of the crew?" "Holding," Liu replied, her voice overlapping with itself as multiple versions spoke at once. "But the neural load is increasing. We're seeing some fascinating adaptations in brainwave patterns, but I'm concerned about long-term exposure." In engineering, O'Connor's voice cut through the quantum chaos. "Commander, we've got a problem. The swarm, they're adapting. Their biological systems are starting to resonate with our quantum frequencies." Maya saw it too. The swarm was learning, evolving in real time. Their ships were beginning to develop countermeasures, their biological technology shifting and changing to better combat the quantum threat. "They're not just fighting us," Maya realized. "They're trying to understand us. To absorb our technology into their collective." It was humanity's worst nightmare, the swarm gaining the ability to exist in quantum superposition. One ship becoming many would be terrifying enough. An entire swarm with that capability would be unstoppable. "New plan," Maya announced across all timelines. "We're not here to fight them. We're here to teach them a lesson about humanity. Lieutenant O'Connor, prepare for maximum quantum divergence. Dr. Liu, route additional power to the neural buffers. Lieutenant Rodriguez, target their command nodes." "Commander," Liu protested, "at maximum divergence, the neural load could be catastrophic." "We didn't come all this way to play it safe," Maya replied. "Humanity didn't bet everything on one ship just to see what would happen. We came here to change the rules of the game." As the Promise's quantum drive spooled up to maximum power, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. One ship prepared to become many, and 12 brave souls readied themselves to experience 1,000 lifetimes in the space of a single battle. The true test of humanity's desperate gambit was about to begin. Echoes of deception. The Promise existed everywhere and nowhere at once, its quantum state spread across hundreds of probability lines. Through the neural link, Maya experienced each timeline simultaneously, victories, defeats, and everything in between bleeding together into a kaleidoscope of possibility. "Quantum core at maximum divergence," O'Connor reported, his voice echoing across realities. "We're maintaining coherence across 317 distinct timelines." The swarm's response was immediate and devastating. Their biological ships began secreting clouds of strange matter that seemed to eat away at the quantum field itself, trying to force the Promise back into a single reality. "They're using some kind of quantum destabilizing agent," Rodriguez called out. "Our probability field is starting to collapse in sectors 7 through 12. But Maya smiled. Because in all the chaos and quantum confusion, no one had noticed what humanity's real plan had been all along. "Dr. Liu," she called out. "Begin Phase 2. In the medical bay, Liu activated a sequence that had been hidden beneath layers of quantum encryption. The Promise's quantum field began to pulse in a very specific pattern, not random, but precisely calculated to resonate with the swarm's hive mind consciousness. "Signal broadcasting across all quantum states," Liu confirmed. "The swarm's biological neural network is beginning to respond." This had been the true purpose of Project Prometheus from the start. The quantum drive wasn't just a weapon or a defense, it was a key to understanding consciousness itself. By existing in multiple states simultaneously, the promise could interface directly with the swarm's collective mind. Through the neural link, Maya felt it happening. The quantum resonance created a bridge between human and alien consciousness. In some timelines, she caught glimpses of the swarm's true nature, not mindless destroyers, but beings so ancient and so alien that destruction and creation were one and the same to them. "They're trying to assimilate our quantum signature," O'Connor warned. "If they succeed." "They won't," Maya interrupted. "Because we're not really here." The truth of humanity's gambit finally revealed itself. The promise hadn't split into hundreds of copies, it had split the swarm's perception of reality itself. Every time they tried to analyze the human ship, their collective consciousness fractured a little more. Neural patterns across the swarm fleet are showing signs of confusion, Lou reported with barely contained excitement. Their hive mind is trying to reconcile contradictory information from multiple quantum states. It's creating a cascading feedback loop in their collective consciousness. The swarm's attack began to falter. Their perfectly coordinated movements became erratic as different parts of their collective experienced different versions of reality. Some ships attacked phantom targets that existed only in certain quantum states. Others began to withdraw, unable to trust their own senses. But victory came with a price. The strain of maintaining the quantum field was taking its toll on the Promise's crew. Maya felt blood trickling from her nose as her mind struggled to process the overwhelming input from hundreds of timelines. Neural stress reaching critical levels, Lou warned. "We need to begin reconvergence soon or risk permanent psychological damage." "Not yet," Maya insisted, even as she felt her grip on reality starting to slip. "We need to push them just a little further." Through the quantum link, she broadcast a message directly into the swarm's fractured consciousness, not in words, but in concepts, emotions, memories. She showed them humanity's determination, their creativity, their willingness to reshape reality itself rather than submit to destruction. The effect was electric. Across all timelines, the swarm's ships began to withdraw, their collective mind reeling from the implications of what they'd encountered. They had evolved to consume technologies, to absorb and adapt to any weapon used against them. But humanity had weaponized consciousness itself. "They're retreating," Rodriguez announced in disbelief. "All quantum states confirm, the swarm is pulling back." "Begin quantum reconvergence," Maya ordered, her voice weak but triumphant. "Bring us back to primary timeline." As the Promise's quantum states collapsed back into a single reality, the crew struggled to process what they'd experienced. Each of them had lived hundreds of lives, died hundreds of deaths, all in the space of a few hours. The psychological impact would take years to fully understand. But they had succeeded. The swarm had encountered something they couldn't simply consume and adapt to, a species willing to fragment their own consciousness, to exist in impossible states, all to protect what they held dear. As the Promise limped back toward Earth, Maya looked at her crew, these brave souls who had willingly endured mental torments beyond imagination, and knew that humanity had just changed the rules of warfare forever. They had proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the ability to destroy, but the willingness to transform oneself into something unprecedented. The swarm would return, she knew. But they would return with a new understanding of humanity, and perhaps, a new respect for these beings who dared to break the laws of reality itself. The price of innovation. The Promise drifted in high Earth orbit, its quantum core powered down for the first time since the encounter with the swarm. Inside the ship's medical bay, Dr. Liu studied neural scans of the crew with growing concern. "Their brain patterns are complicated," she reported to Admiral Chen during the daily briefing. "They're still experiencing quantum echoes, memories from timelines that no longer exist." The holographic display showed 12 minds forever changed by their experience. Neural pathways that shouldn't exist, synaptic connections that defied conventional neuroscience. Each crew member now carried the weight of hundreds of lives, hundreds of deaths, all simultaneously real and unreal. Commander Patel sat in her quarters, staring at her reflection. Sometimes, when she looked too quickly, she saw other versions of herself, versions that had died in battle, versions that had won differently, versions that had made other choices. The quantum technology had changed them in ways they were only beginning to understand. Bridge to Commander Patel, Rodriguez's voice came through the comm, "We're detecting unusual activity at the edge of the system." Maya made her way to the bridge, noting how the crew moved differently now. They walked with the grace of people who had lived multiple lifetimes, their movements precise as if compensating for phantom quantum states that no longer existed. "Show me," she ordered, settling into her command chair. The main screen displayed a strange distortion in space, similar to the swarm's bioships, but different. More ordered. More deliberate. "They're trying to communicate," O'Connor announced from engineering. "The quantum signatures, they're mimicking our own patterns from the battle." The swarm had always been silent before, consuming worlds without a word. But now they were reaching out, using the very technology that humanity had used against them. The implications were staggering. "They're not just copying our technology," Maya realized. "They're trying to understand us." The quantum resonance didn't just confuse them, it changed them. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, are we looking at a second attack?" Maya studied the readings, drawing on memories from countless quantum states. "No," she said finally. "This is something else. They're curious." But curiosity from a force like the swarm came with its own dangers. The quantum technology had given humanity a defense, but it had also given the swarm new possibilities to explore. The war might be paused, but the real challenge was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, the crew of the Promise struggled to readjust to singular existence. Simple tasks became complicated when muscle memory included actions from hundreds of alternate timelines. Dreams were filled with lives unlived, choices unmade. "We need to talk about long-term effects," Dr. Liu insisted during a private meeting with Maya. "The human mind wasn't designed to experience quantum superposition. We're seeing unprecedented changes in cognitive patterns." Maya nodded, feeling the weight of all her quantum selves pressing against the edges of her consciousness. "Are we still human, Sarah? After what we've experienced?" "I don't know," Liu admitted. "But maybe that's not the right question. Maybe we should be asking what humanity can become." The Promise's quantum core had been modified, improved based on data from their encounter. Engineers worked round the clock to understand the changes the swarm had forced them to make during battle. Each new discovery brought both opportunity and concern. "We can maintain more stable quantum states now," O'Connor reported during a systems check. "The core adapted during our engagement, learned from each timeline. It's more efficient, more powerful, and more unpredictable." Rodriguez, monitoring the swarm's activities, noted similar changes in their behavior. "They're not moving as a single mass anymore. Their ships are experimenting. Like they're testing different possibilities simultaneously." The implications were clear: the swarm was learning to use quantum mechanics in their own way. The very weapon humanity had created to stop them might end up making them more formidable than ever. Admiral Chen faced increasing pressure from Earth's leadership. "They want us to build more ships," she told Maya during a secure transmission. "They think quantity is the answer." "They don't understand," Maya replied. "The quantum drive isn't just technology. It's transformation. We're not just fighting the swarm anymore. We're racing them to the next stage of evolution." The Promise remained humanity's only quantum-capable ship, not because they couldn't build more, but because finding crews capable of handling the mental strain was proving nearly impossible. The original 12 had been changed by their experience, marked by it in ways that defied explanation. As Maya looked out at the stars from her command chair, she felt the weight of quantum possibilities pressing against her consciousness. The swarm was out there, learning, adapting, becoming something new. And humanity, through the Promise and her crew, was changing too. The question was no longer whether they would survive, but what they would become in the process of surviving. The price of innovation wasn't just measured in resources or lives lost, it was measured in the transformation of what it meant to be human. The next confrontation with the swarm wouldn't be about destruction. It would be about evolution, about the future of consciousness itself. And the 12 souls aboard the Promise, forever changed by their quantum experience, would lead humanity into that uncertain future. Victory through understanding. At the edge of the solar system, reality rippled. The Promise hung in space, its quantum core humming with potential, as thousands of swarm bioships approached in perfect formation. But this time, something was different. They're maintaining quantum superposition, Rodriguez reported, her enhanced consciousness detecting subtle variations in spacetime. Multiple probability states, just like us. Maya watched through both normal and quantum-enhanced senses as the swarm's ships shifted between states of existence. What had started as humanity's desperate gambit had evolved into something far more profound. The swarm hadn't just adapted to quantum technology, they'd embraced it, integrated it into their very being. They're requesting direct quantum interface, O'Connor announced, his voice carrying echoes of surprise across multiple timelines. Full neural link, consciousness to consciousness. The bridge fell silent. Such direct contact would mean exposing human minds to the full complexity of the swarm's collective consciousness. After their first encounter, the crew of the Promise had been forever changed by limited quantum exposure. Full neural contact could transform them into something entirely new. The risk is unprecedented, Dr. Liu warned, her medical sensors showing alarming possibilities. We have no way to predict what such direct contact might do to human consciousness. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of quantum possibilities pressing against her mind. In some timelines, she saw destruction. In others, transcendence. The choice she made here would ripple across reality itself. We didn't come all this way to stop at the threshold, she said finally. Humanity sent one ship not just to fight, but to understand. To evolve. Prepare for quantum interface. The crew took their positions, each carrying the experience of hundreds of lives lived across quantum states. They had been chosen for this mission because they could adapt, could survive the impossible. Now they would prove it again. As the Promise's quantum field synchronized with the swarm's consciousness, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Human and alien minds touched across the quantum void, and understanding bloomed like a supernova. The swarm wasn't what humanity had imagined. They weren't mindless destroyers, but ancient explorers, seeking new forms of consciousness across the galaxy. Their consumption of worlds wasn't destruction but transformation, an attempt to elevate life to new states of being. They had been waiting for a species that could meet them on their level, that could understand existence beyond conventional reality. Through the quantum link, Maya shared humanity's story, their struggles, their dreams, their relentless drive to survive and understand. She showed them Earth's beauty, its diversity, its potential. And in return, she glimpsed the swarm's true nature, a collective consciousness spanning galaxies, existing in multiple dimensions, seeking always to grow, to learn, to transform. They're not retreating, Rodriguez reported, wonder in her voice. They're integrating. Teaching us. Learning from us. The quantum interface deepened, and knowledge flowed both ways. The swarm learned of individual consciousness, of personal choice, of the strength that comes from diversity. Humanity learned of collective existence, of quantum harmony, of consciousness that transcended physical form. In the medical bay, Dr. Liu's instruments recorded changes that defied explanation. Human brains adapting to quantum states not as an anomaly but as natural evolution. The swarm's biological technology resonating with human neural patterns, creating something entirely new. We're changing, Liu reported, her own consciousness expanding through the quantum field. All of us. Not just the crew, the entire concept of what it means to be human is evolving. Admiral Chen's voice came through, tinged with concern. "Commander, are we losing you?" Maya smiled, experiencing the question across multiple quantum states. "No, Admiral. We're becoming more than we were. And so are they." The Promise's quantum core pulsed with new energy as human and swarm consciousness merged and separated, danced and evolved. This wasn't victory through destruction, but through transformation. Humanity had sent one ship not to win a war, but to bridge a gap between forms of existence. Across Earth, quantum echoes rippled through the collective unconscious of humanity. People dreamed of new possibilities, felt the first stirrings of expanded consciousness. The swarm's vast network of worlds experienced similar changes, as individual and collective awareness found new ways to coexist. "We understand now," Maya broadcast across all quantum states, her consciousness touching both human and swarm minds. "One ship was enough because we didn't need a fleet. We needed a bridge. A connection. A way to show that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, but our ability to adapt, to change, to grow." The swarm's response came not in words but in quantum harmonies, a symphony of consciousness that spoke of peace, of cooperation, of joint evolution towards something greater than either species had imagined. As the Promise prepared to return to Earth, Maya looked at her crew, no longer just human, but not quite something else. They had been changed by their experience, but they had changed the galaxy in return. One ship had been enough because sometimes the smallest bridge can connect the largest gaps. The war that never was had ended in neither victory nor defeat, but in transformation. Humanity had proved that their greatest weapon wasn't their ability to destroy or resist, but their capacity to understand, to adapt, to become something new while remaining true to who they were. And in the quantum spaces between moments, between thoughts, between states of being, a new chapter in the story of consciousness itself began to unfold.